You're listening to the Full Court Press with your host, Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Full Court Press. I'm your host, Drew Duncan. We're live from the K-Sun Studios in Wichita, Kansas. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all at Drew Duncan 83. And don't forget, you can listen to me live Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. at ksunradio.org. That's ksunradio.org. And now you can tell Alexa to play the Full Court Press by Drew Duncan on Spreaker. You heard me correctly. The Full Court Press by Drew Duncan on Spreaker. WSU comes in ranked number 2 for the preseason. They had their first exhibition game of the year. You know, being from Wichita, it's hard for me being a Kansas guy. You know, most of my favorite teams are not from here. You know, growing up, you know, in the NFL, I was always a Denver and Philly fan, which obviously we're going to be getting to that a little bit later in the program here today. I was a Syracuse and Nebraska guy. Obviously, for Nebraska, it was harder to root for him in basketball and easier to root for him in football. And with Syracuse, it was kind of good for both there for a little while. Now, obviously, it's easier to be a Syracuse basketball fan than it is a football fan sometimes, but it is what it is. So the point that I'm making here is on a personal level, it was always a little bit difficult to root for home teams. You know, I just never was a big K-State guy. I never really was a KU fan, you know, for a little while when I was a kid. But I just ended up falling in love with Syracuse football and basketball when I was young, and it stayed that way. And it never really left me. But I am proud to see the Wichita State Shockers come in as a preseason ranked number 2 team with high expectations and a lot of people believing that this basketball team, led obviously by Shaq Morris, has got an opportunity to go all the way this year. Now, look, you know, I'm a guy that I've said this 100 times over. You know, in college football, I don't believe that there should really be a preseason top 25 poll. Yeah, I think there should be guesstimations. Fine if you want to play that. If you want to, you know, write your little article about, you know, who you think it is and put your little video on YouTube and Facebook. This is who I think the top 25 are. Da-da-da-da-da. But I've never felt that polls should come out for the first 4 weeks. And I believe the same to be true in college basketball. Number 1, you're looking at a lot more games. Number 2, the tournament has a tendency to basically be a ranking system in and of itself. You're essentially saying these are the 68 best teams in the nation out of, 351? You're putting them together and going, have at it, man. Do what you got to do. So at the end of the day, the rankings to me, especially in college basketball, are really more of a fanship than anything. It's all about team and camaraderie, and it's all about the school that you represent, or, you know, obviously, you know, AKA your alma mater. It's all about your hometown. Obviously, a lot of people here from WSU have attended WSU, but a lot of people that are from here have not attended WSU, but that doesn't mean that they're not WSU fans. Shaq Morris and Darrell Willis went on exhibition on November the 4th against a Division II team and did exactly what they were supposed to do. Won the game 90-53, took control of it early, and they never looked back. You know, the most impressive thing that I've ever seen about a Greg Marshall coached basketball team, and I think that this is the one consistency with all of them, is number 1, their defensive play, which consistently every single season seems to rank in the top 10 or top 15 in the country. And again, out of 351 basketball teams, that's phenomenal to make sure that you have that kind of a defense. And if I'm wheezing a little bit, I want to remind everybody, I've been sick. I was sick for my birthday. And so that's what's going on. But you can't keep missing work. Eventually you got to come in. So that's all there is to it. Nonetheless, you know, you're looking at a team that consistently ranks every year top defensively in the nation. That's big, because obviously their offenses have struggled. Another big part of what I've always loved about a Greg Marshall basketball team, rebounding. a team that consistently, once again, every single year out of 351 teams, when it's all said and done, continuously ranks in the top tier in the nation in rebounding. Rebounding is something that I have always stressed in basketball. When I was growing up, we really didn't focus a lot on rebounding. We ran triangle offenses. Later on in high school, it was, a little bit more freelance style of offense, but eventually, there was some control to it. But I always felt the one thing that all of my coaches lacked preaching, and that was offensive rebounding. And now, look, obviously defensive rebounding is a huge deal, but I believe that offensive rebounding is key. And the reason why I believe that is because there's three main things. Number one, if you're having a bad game offensively, you're having difficulty scoring, you're keeping the ball away from the other team. You're giving yourself multiple opportunities, which is number two. Look, you've got to keep putting it up. Your best shooters have got to be able to just keep putting it up. You got to keep trying to get inside, whatever it takes. And as long as you're getting second and third opportunities, you're going to give yourself more chances. At the end of the day, your field goal percentage may look horrendous, but the only stat that that anybody should ever care about when it's really all said and done is that win and loss column, which leads me to number three. Look, you're going to minimize fast break opportunities for the other team, right? So when you minimize fast break opportunities, if I could do my job this morning, number one, where do a lot of fouls occur? Fast breaks. So now you're not giving them any time for three-point plays. You're not giving them any time to control the pace of the game. You're doing it. So all those things together are why I have always stressed that rebounding is a key for any basketball team. Greg Marshall basketball teams are some of the best in the country year in and year out, not just defensively on the glass, but offensively. A couple of years ago when WSU played KU in the NCAA tournament during March Madness, one of the things that I stressed was rebounding. And I believed that if WSU was able to keep KU away from the glass, that was going to be how they won the game. And that was exactly how they did it. As a matter of fact, they absolutely controlled the rebounding in that basketball game. Now, look, obviously coming from a broadcaster standpoint, you play a team like Newman and you think to yourself, well, how good is that really? They're a Division II team. It doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter. You look at Syracuse, for instance, a team that I love, better than the team that they faced a couple of days ago. Struggled mightily in the first half. Got it going pretty good in the second half. But unfortunately, they just didn't give me the performance that I wanted in the first half. And please pardon me, the win was over Henderson State. They'll be playing Newman coming up. Understand that by the first media timeout, Wichita State was up 17-3. Greg Marshall's been really high on goodness grief, I'm on meds, guys. Connor Frankcamp's aggressiveness in practice. He really felt like that it translated over the exhibition game on Saturday. 10 points in the first half. He was 5 out of 7 shooting, getting inside. Right now, when you start looking at WSU, you got to start looking at a team that you think this year could possibly be the complete basketball team. It's something that they have been missing for a very long time. And I think the reason why they're ranked so highly this season is there's a lot of people believe that WSU finally has an offense. It's been one of those things where the antithesis to all the rebounding and defensive talk that I just provided you, it's been that Wichita State can't score offensively. We're talking 65, 66, 67 points a game. You get in the tournament playing teams like Arizona, Kentucky, Syracuse, New Mexico State, teams that come in averaging 75, 80 points a game, that consistently put up points. And while the defense may put you in a position to where you're in those ball games late, think about the Louisville game, offensively, if you can't score, you can't put a team away. Yeah, look, WSU fans, it was a bad call in the Final Four at the end of that game against Louisville. It was a horrendous call. I couldn't believe it. But you were up by 15 points. It's your job to put that other team away. It happened to my boys, Syracuse. Never forget the year we had Eton Thomas and Jason Hart and those guys. undefeated for the better part of the season. Wouldn't you know it? We're in the Elite Eight. Game is against Michigan State. Up by 12 points, but about 5 to go in the game. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, we got this. We're going to the Final Four. Nope. Couldn't score rest of the way down. Offense isn't just about flash. It's not just about stat lines, how you run up the score. It's not only about those things. Obviously, number one, you score more points than the other team, you win. But it's about imposing your will, putting in daggers, free throws, things like that. It's the little things that you do in basketball that for some reason we've either gotten away from it in the media or we've put it aside in coaching. I don't know what's changed, what philosophy is suddenly different. I don't know where it all went the other direction. But when I was growing up, we were taught a lot of these little things. Free throw shooting was a big deal when I was growing up. I had a coach that when I was a freshman in high school, he wouldn't let us leave practice until we hit 10 free throws in a row. Would not let us leave. Now, that's not a lot. It's really not. But he wouldn't let us do it until. And Mom, Dad, sorry, you're going to have to wait. Your kid's got to hit 10 free throws in a row. It got to the point where some kids, parents knew, man. They would just start showing up 20 minutes later anyways. Bottom line here is WSU and Greg Marshall, I think, look like a very controlled basketball team. They look like they're prepared to not only do the big things offensively this season that need to get done, but they look like they're going to continue the defensive prowess, the rebounding that carries you through a lot of bad games. Again, you may hold somebody to 67, but if you can't ever put up more than 60 on a night, it hurts you. Think about that Syracuse team that was undefeated a few years ago. Really good basketball team, but they couldn't score. It does hurt you, especially when you get in the tournament. Early on in the tournament, I think it's more prevalent. I've always believed that defenses get a little bit better, but obviously I think we've seen a change over that where offenses later on in the tournament I think have a little bit more prowess, but defenses could just be tired. I think maybe we've seen that switch. Regardless of whatever it is, WSU, good win. They've got Newman coming up. And right now they look good. But it is too early to tell. But again, being a Wichita native, it is good to see them in the position that they're in right now. And I hope nothing but good things, especially for Greg Marshall, because he's very near and dear to a lot of people around here. And there are a lot of people that are still out there wanting a basketball coach for their big-time program. And we can all just sit back and hope that Marshall continues to stick it out with us. This is the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. We're live from the K-Sun Studios in Wichita, Kansas. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all at Drew Duncan 83. Wherever you are, you can listen to ksunradio.org, or you could say, play Drew Duncan, the Full Court Press on Alexa. We're going to take a quick sponsor break. When we come back on the flip side, a lot more to get to. We're going to be talking Denver and Philly. A lot of fans are beginning that John Elway is to blame for the state of the Denver Broncos. We're going to talk about it right after this. Don't you dare touch that dial.